Hello, I'm back on my walk and talk life. It's been a few minutes since I've recorded a little chat and walked at the same time. And I just felt the inspiration hit me. I was thinking about habits and I was thinking about overeating and binge eating, and I was figuring out what topic I wanted to discuss today. And I honestly wanted to go live, but for some reason the internet was not connecting, so I'm just here recording this on my phone, talking to no one and everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. It's about 5:30 p.m. here. I'm on Long Island. I am currently staying at what used to be my grandparents' old house, and after they passed a couple years ago, my family, or my parents, now own it. And so we get it for the summer because during the rest of the year we actually rent it out to medical students. So it's been a nice little perk. So I grew up coming out here my entire life, pretty much. So it just reminds me of my childhood and so many fun memories. So I love going on walks around here because it's just really fresh and beautiful, and obviously tons of trees and very, very little people. Not little people, but not so many people. I think you understood that. So I made a video earlier this week and talked a little bit about two things that contribute to overeating, binge eating specifically, but the overarching concept of mindless eating, disconnected eating, when we eat past the point of feeling comfortable, feeling full, when we do not listen to our body, when we are trying to numb out from certain feelings or emotions or situations. There's many triggers which may cause somebody to have the urge to binge eat or mindless eat or overeat past the point of fullness. The two things that I mentioned were being in survival mode and having it become a habit that is serving you in the short run, but not serving you in the long term. So I wanted to break that down even more and talk about the first thing, survival mode. What is survival mode? How do I know if I'm in it? Yada, yada, yada. So essentially, survival mode is your fight, flight, or freeze mode that your body goes into when it feels it's being threatened. And this can happen in many different ways. A common example is the example of, a human coming across some kind of wild animal thousands of years ago in the wild, and it's the feeling of your adrenaline rushing through your body, of your heart racing, of your muscles tensing and tightening, of your blood rushing out of your stomach, away from your digestive system, into your muscles. And it's also the feeling of some other things happen. So like your stress hormones will increase, and it's all for the sake of the temporary, short-term solution to keeping the human alive. And that's our primal. It is a primal thing. It's involuntary, which means that it's a part of our brain that is like the subconscious part. And it is specifically the part of the brain that is called the primal brain, sometimes called the lower brain, the lizard brain. The fancy name for it, the scientific name for it, is the amygdala. I think it's a fun word, so I like to say it. Amygdala. There's a Y in there. Can you figure out where it is? So this part of our brain actually activates when we experience the urge to binge specifically, and then also the experience of stress eating, emotional eating, things like that. So why would your survival mechanism turn on, and why would that encourage you to eat? Well, eating food is actually a necessity to keep our humans alive, us as our humans alive, and eating enough is also a big part of that. So when the body is not eating enough, when we are not feeding our body enough calories, enough food, the body can go into a version of survival mode where a version of that fight, flight, or freeze mode is activated. And it does this because it doesn't know that you may be restricting food on purpose. It just thinks there's a famine. I'm not getting enough food. So therefore, we need to call like a code famine, right? And then all the cascading reactions happen in your body, which include a few different things. But the thing I want to focus on is the reaction of the body needing to eat and eat food in a large amount because it's not sure when it's going to get that any food again. So a big trigger for survival mode to take effect, believe it or not, is restrictive eating, aka diets. As we consciously restrict calories in food because we want to go on a diet, because whatever, we want to lose weight, we want to eat less, whatever. After a short amount of time, even actually like only a week or so, the body will start to adapt because it's receiving less energy, it's receiving less calories. So it goes into a form of survival mode. So I'm thinking of two examples of survival mode that I've personally experienced. One is like you restrict food, like you're like willpower, motivation's on point, and I am gonna fast for today, right? Or I'm gonna eat very specific foods, like no carbs. I'm gonna eat I'm gonna eat just protein and vegetables, or I'm going on the specific diet and these are the rules, and I am consuming less calories than I was, which I know will help my eventual weight loss goals. But you're hungry and the body's metabolism is going to slow down eventually because you're just consuming less. So it's like, hey, our human is not consuming less. Our human is consuming less food. We need to slow our metabolism down so that we don't expend all of this extra energy that we're not consuming. So that might look like you becoming more lethargic. That will eventually look like you holding the same weight, having a difficult time losing weight, things like that. It will also put a stress on your body because not only does your brain go into survival mode, but so does your body and your hormonal system. And when this happens, it becomes really difficult to consciously stop yourself from overeating when the urge to eat hits you. So you may be able to willpower and control your consumption of food for, a few days, maybe even a few weeks. I used to do like bodybuilding, and so my limit for like really restricting my food was probably like 10 days to 2 weeks. And then I would have this insane urge to eat anything, eat everything. And at that point, binge eating was not, it's not true. At that point, I had actually stopped binge eating, but the need to eat, because I was literally starving, would become so overwhelming that I would eventually binge. It did not look like, oh, it's raining, yay. It didn't look like the intensity of binges like on a daily basis, which absolutely was a part of my experience. But I would not be able to stop myself because I was hungry, and the urge to binge, the urge to eat, it's a ravenous type of hunger. It is a nothing will satiate you type of hunger. It is a I can't think straight type of hunger. It is a I can't think of anything else but food. I am irritable and distracted, and the only thing I can think about is food and lots of it and getting it into my body, no matter what it is. All of your dietary rules probably go out the window. All of your willpower goes out the window. All of your healthy habits may go out the window. And this is all because the urge to binge, the urge to overeat, comes from the amygdala. This is a primal part of the brain that also controls some other urges. And when you experience this, it does feel like it's this kind of automatic feeling that your conscious, or I should say your like the CEO executive part of your brain, which is up front here, and it's called the prefrontal cortex, not as fun of a word, which makes our like parental decisions, like not really smart for you to get in the car after you've been drinking. Hello. That part of our brain actually shuts down and becomes less active when we're in survival mode, when the amygdala is heightened, and when we're in this stress response, because our body is just responding. So it's common for people to say, and I've totally experienced this, like I feel like a switch has gone off. I sometimes feel like I turn into like another person because everything that I say I'm going to do, all of my commitments to being healthy and eating a certain way and exercising, all go out the window, and I don't even realize that I've eaten an entire sleeve of Oreos. Like, what? I am such a failure. And then we internalize that, and the shame and the guilt feelings intensify, which I just learned this very interesting fact. Shame and guilt actually increase the activity of that same primal brain, of that same part of our brain, the amygdala, also the limbic system, that very automatic part of us, primal part of us. Shame and guilt actually activate those systems. So if you imagine you're in survival mode because life is stressful, because you're not eating enough calories, so your body's already there, and then you try and restrict, right, and hold on to these very finely lived rules and boxes, and then you just, one day, because we're human, at some point your body's just gonna be like, I need food, feed me all the things. So all the rules go out the window. We're in primal brain mode, not thinking, automatic, eat all the things. Then we wake up, right, our amygdala kind of calms down after we've consumed all that food. We're in a little bit of a food coma, and we feel extremely full, and we know we overdid it, and we blame it on our willpower, and we blame it on our self-control. We blame it on the person that we are. We internalize it. We take that on as who we are, and that shame and that guilt just continue to fuel that same mechanism. Mind blown. So when I learned that, the urge to binge, the urge to overeat, can be intensified and even caused by restrictive eating and dieting, it made a lot of sense to me. And although it was really hard for me to accept and then to take action on it, at my lowest point, I had a decision to make. Do I want to recover from overeating and binge eating? Or do I want to just continue to focus on losing weight? And I realized at that time I had to make a decision, one or the other, because where I was at that moment, couldn't do both at the same time. And that was a really hard pill to swallow. That was a really big piece of broccoli to swallow. You know what I mean? Because I felt so horrible. I felt so terrible about my body. And I thought the thing that is going to make me feel better, the thing that is going to make my life better, is if I could just lose these 30 pounds that I've put on. If I could just lose these 30 pounds, my life will be better. I'll figure everything out after that. And I realized my wanting to lose weight and focusing on weight loss, focusing on changing my body, my aesthetics, was the same thing that was preventing me from being able to overcome this binge eating disorder that was literally ruining my life. That was keeping me locked up inside because I was either too anxious, too ashamed, too sick to my stomach to go out. I was canceling plans left and right. I was keeping myself in the same small, fear-based place mentally where I was not making good decisions. I was keeping myself in a place in business. I was keeping myself in a place with my friends, in my dating life, everything with my family as this small version, because my physical and emotional and mental impacts from overeating and binge eating were keeping me there, right? I couldn't really go more than a few days without binge eating at my worst. And the exhaustion, the mental guilt and shame, everything that I carried around was even heavier than the 30 pounds that I was carrying around on my body physically. So I had to make a choice. Am I going to continue to focus and try and lose this weight and do the same thing over and over again? Try a new diet, try to willpower it, try to restrict a little bit more, work out harder, work out longer, do a different type of whatever? Or am I going to put that weight loss goal on the shelf, on the back burner, and instead focus on my behavior? Instead, focus on healing my relationship with food and getting the behavior of how I incorporate food into my life, like not under control, because that's like the opposite, but free. I don't want to have to think about food all the time. I don't want to have to worry about binging. I don't want this to control me. I don't want to feel like I can't do things because I'm so sick to my stomach. I am so overwhelmed. I am so anxious. I am so just focused and constantly in survival mode and constantly in binge urge mode, where I literally can't think of anything else. There were so many times I've left parties, I've left friends gatherings, I've left dates early because I just wanted to go home. I wanted to sit on my couch and I just wanted to put food in my mouth as I numbed out to TV. And there was emotional things that were connected to that, but ultimately the urge to binge and my choosing to act on that urge to binge was the thing that needed to be healed. So 18 minutes in, I wanted this to be a 10-minute video. It's not gonna happen, obviously. So I made that choice, and that was the thing that changed everything for me. That was the thing that made it possible for me to actually overcome binge eating. And ironically enough, when I stopped focusing on the weight loss and I focused on healing my relationship with food and digging into what I needed to dig into and stop fearing the urges and stop fearing the binging and stop fearing the emotional discomfort, the weight came off. The weight released because it was weight that I was holding that was connected to all of this extra eating. I'm gonna have to cut this video off because it's gonna be 20 minutes now, but I definitely will get into more of how, like the steps of how to do that, how to start looking and becoming aware of the habits, of the urges, I should say, becoming aware of the urges and what is triggering them. Taking a look at what in your life is happening before you feel the urge to binge or the urge to overeat. It might be an emotional thing, it might be a stress thing, it might be a situational thing, it might be a person thing, it might be a location thing, it might be a trauma thing, I don't know. But bringing awareness to that, and along with a few other practices that again I will go into in the next video, it is possible to recover. the thing I want you to take away from this video is the reason that you binge eat or overeat is not because you're broken, not because you are you have low willpower. It's not because you can't do it. It's not any of that. It is because your brain sends out a signal to eat, sends out an urge. It's just what it does. It's just what the body has evolutionarily learned to do. And you have developed the habit of acting on it. First thing, the body just releases this urge. It creates this urge in you. And we have created the habit of acting on it. And that is it. That is it. No shame, no blame, no nothing. You're not weak because of it. It's just an ingrained habit that comes about because we have chosen to act on an urge. Think about, oh God, here I go. All right, I'm not even gonna go into it because this video is gonna be too long. So that is powerful. That's empowering, you guys. It is not an addiction thing, even though it might feel like it. It is not a willpower thing. It is not a failure thing, okay? I promise you that there is a strong way that we will go about this, and you will be able to overcome it. So keep watching the videos. It's only the beginning of July. We have a lot of stuff to do, and there will be a lot of really great practices for you guys to start to implement. I'm going to write in the comments of the video, number one, to start to bring awareness to what happens right before or in the course of that day of your overeating practice, your binge eating, and start to just bring non-judgmental awareness, observation, witnessing to what that is. Start to gain a little bit of insight as to what triggers might set off a binge urge. It might be like a compounding of a few different things, but let's try and start to bring awareness to it. Okay, I will end the video here. Next one's gonna be another good one. I'm learning to keep it concise, but I guess 22 minutes isn't that bad at the end of the day. All right, have a great day. Enjoy the workout today. It's a good one. I'll see you guys later. Bye.